Hey everyone, happy April and welcome to today's Nita Connections. Today I am joined by Dr. Lauren Muhlheim for a conversation about family dynamics during quarantine. Lauren Muhlheim, Psy.D, FAED, CEDS, is a psychologist, fellow of the for the Academy of Eating Disorders, AED, and certified eating disorder specialist, CEDS, and approved supervisor for the International Association of Eating Disorder Professionals, IADEP. She directs Eating Disorder Therapy LA in Los Angeles and is able to provide teletherapy in California and New York. She provides cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, for adults and family-based treatment um, for adolescents, for adolescent eating disorders. I'm sorry, please pause. She provides cognitive-based therapy, CBT, for adults and family-based treatment for adolescent eating disorders, and is the author, and adheres to health at every size principles. She is certified in FPT, practical strategies, for adolescent eating. This just goes to show how everyone can mess up sometimes. So I apologize, everyone. And adheres to health at every size principles. She is certified in FBT for adolescent eating disorders and is the author of When Your Teen Has an Eating Disorder, Practical Strategies to Help Your Teen Overcome Anorexia, Bulimia, Binge Eating, published in
You can stop
2018.
there.
I'm going to continue going with your bio, Lauren. Dr. Muhlheim holds leadership roles in several professional organizations, including the AED IADEPT LA chapter and the Los Angeles County Psychological Association. Dr. Muhlheim is the eating disorder expert for Verywell, formerly About.com, and is clinical director of the eating disorder information website Mirror Mirror Eating Disorders. She presents nationally to parents, professionals, and trainees on treatment for eating disorders, social media ethics, and professional ethics. She is active on social media and is an adjunct professor at Pepperdine University. Dr. Muhlheim was recently selected to teach the IADEP core course for certification for professionals of all disciplines pursuing certification as eating disorder specialists. What an accomplishment. So thank you all for bearing with me as I got my way through Dr. Muhlheim's very impressive bio. And hi, Lauren, thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So there's so much that we can talk about in terms of family dynamics during this quarantine. And while each family system operates differently, I was hoping that you could kick things off by discussing some of the triggers and/or challenges that may arise as family members are quarantined together for an unknown amount of time.
Yeah, this is such a big topic.
Absolutely.
I think this is an extremely challenging time for everyone, challenging for families who have people at all stages, all dealing with their own adjustments and losses at this time. So I think the first thing is to remember that tensions are really, really high. And under stress, eating disorder symptoms often worsen, and you may increase in eating disorder behaviors. In addition, there's a lot of pressure from people being isolated together without regular contact with other people. So it can bring increased tension within the family.
Yeah. And to your point, there is just so much to cover. So what might be helpful is if we break it down a little bit by how family members can support their loved ones who are either currently struggling with an eating disorder, in recovery, maybe exhibiting some disordered behaviors but haven't had an official diagnosis. Then later on, we can do the flip side and discuss how individuals that are struggling can approach their families for support as well. So any tips you have,
Right.
starting with how family members can support their loved ones right now?
So I think the two biggest tips I would have would be compassion and communication. So really just approaching this from a perspective of this is such a hard time, and showing a lot of compassion for your family member who may be struggling, and communicating and asking them what you can do to support them. Ideally not during a meal. So remembering that a person with an eating disorder or disordered eating is going to have such high anxiety at a mealtime that that's not a good time to confront them or ask them what you can do to support them outside the meals.
Mhm. And would you recommend, or does it not matter if it's before mealtime, after mealtime, certain time of day, I guess? It makes sense not to bring it up during meals.
Probably not right before or right after either. I would give it
Right.
some
Seems
time.
okay.
So a person's anxiety can be really high during, before, or after, and it, as they anticipate, the meal, and after they've eaten, anxiety can be really high too. So preferably, away from mealtime when you notice that the person is calm. That would be a good time to have a conversation about, what's happening with meals and what you can do to support them. I think in general, family meals, which also are a hallmark of FBT, is a sick form of family treatment that is what we can cover here. But family meals in general can be a good opportunity to bring people together and unite around food. And, that's the one universal thing. We all have to eat during this period. And it is a good opportunity for someone with an eating disorder to be around other people who are eating maybe those foods that the person is afraid of. And so that's one of the factors that, we think helps with FBT.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And so, yeah, family meals, that all sounds like really helpful things that families can do for supporting someone who's struggling. And for the flip side, what tips or recommendations would you have for people that are personally affected to either express their boundaries, their needs, and ask for support to family members?
So communication is important, and I think asserting oneself and one's needs is going to be important. Again, probably best to do it outside of meals, but I think asking parents and family members to support you it's often hard. I think it's hard for people to ask for help, and people feel a lot of shame in asking for help. But the reality is that most people do need support to overcome an eating disorder, and many family members will want to be supportive, but they often don't know what it is they can do to be supportive. So I think it's really helpful if you have something specific they can do, even if it's sitting with you while you eat your snack, or helping you to, eat a certain food, or making a meal for you,
Mm-hmm.
or not, nagging you during the meal, whatever it is. I think it's really helpful when you can communicate your needs.
Yeah, definitely. I see that some questions are coming through on Facebook. So, yeah, so someone conveyed that they're having a hard time with having extra food in the house and eating more in panic, which we talked about also in previous Needed Connections. And if there's anything you want to add to that, Lauren, about, being a valid concern and
Yeah, that's a huge adjustment for so many people who are used to not having so many foods on hand. And I think for someone who has restricted foods, it can feel overwhelming to suddenly have that food around. I think, with time, it does get easier, which is one of the reasons why in treatment we often focus on incorporating all foods, because then they don't have this control over you. So I just say, compassion for yourself. This is a huge adjustment. And when you're first reincorporating foods, you may eat larger quantities of them, and that's normal, and that's part of the
Mhm.
process.
There was a really great question that came through that I would like to pose to you. So someone mentioned that their wife is an essential employee and they're not, and so they're home alone for dinner about 4 times a week, which I could imagine people, whether you have family members or partners that are, still out and working, or if you're in a situation where you're not with family right now or you're with unsupportive family, and around mealtime, how any recommendations or kind of validation and support you can provide there.
Yeah, so if you don't have access to meal support in your home, I think sometimes distraction can be the best way to get through a meal, and that is perfectly okay. We do that a lot in family-based treatment when anxiety is really high. We go for the distraction, the eating in front of the TV, preferably something light at this point, that will help you to lessen your anxiety to eat. And then there's virtual meal support. So a lot of people are doing FaceTime meals, and um, you know, that Zoom meetings.
So I don't know if anybody else is experiencing a glitch. Lauren, you were going in and out, at least on my end. So I'll just recap for those listening at home what I think I heard you say. So you were talking about virtual.
Hello? Did I cut out?
Hello?
I can't.
So I think we're having some technical difficulties. So for those of you that also are having trouble hearing and that it seems like it was cut out, Lauren was mentioning that there's some virtual meal support options if you don't have supportive loved ones at home, or if you are, in a situation where even if you do have supportive family, that they're physically unavailable due to working or due to just being the separation right now. So Lauren, are you still there?
I'm back.
Okay,
Can you
great.
hear me?
I can hear you now. Your camera is still not showing.
Yes. That's weird. I don't want to do anything because I might lose it. Turned it off and turned it on again. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you see me?
I can't see you.
Oh, well, I'll just talk then. So virtual meal support with someone that you know, and then there's an Instagram where you're going live. You can and meal with health at every size therapists and dietitians pretty much every hour.
Yes, and you came back. So yes, that's Instagram page that we're hoping to, in a future Nita Connections, also share a little more information about. So, well, thank you so much, Lauren, and everyone at home for chiming in. I keep wanting to say tuning in and chiming in. For chiming in, for technical difficulties, for my brain malfunction today, for everything else. We really appreciate it. And, again, this conversation about family dynamics and support is such a robust topic. So we'll be continuing the conversation in tomorrow's Nita Connections with our guest speaker, Laura Collins-Leister Mensch, who is the Executive Director of FEAST, a global community of parents and those who support parents and families affected by eating disorders. So thank you again, and wishing everybody a happy and healthy and prank-free April Fool's Day, and look forward to joining you again live tomorrow. Thank you. Bye.